Part 20. As Wendell fled, Harold had just entered, followed by his sister Wendy and her fiancé, Gerald White. Besides Gerald, there was also a young man dressed in luxurious clothes. Judging by his face, he somewhat resembled Gerald. When he met Wendell in person, Harold said hurriedly, "Oh, Brother Wendell, when I just came in, I heard someone say something happened to your family. Is that true?" Wendell pushed him desperately, muttering under his breath, "It's over. It's over. It's all over." Harold asked with concern, "Mr. Jones, what's wrong with you?" Wendell shook his head in fear, not daring to say anything. He had no doubt that if he said something he shouldn't, he might be a corpse on the street tomorrow. So Wendell broke free from Harold's hand and ran desperately. Harold looked back and sighed. "I guess this house is really finished. Damn, it's too fast, isn't it? Yesterday it was fine, but today it's a bust." Then, when Harold saw Charlie and Claire, he was moved by a bad thought and hurriedly greeted Claire. "Claire, I will introduce you to this distinguished guest. This is Gerald's cousin, Fred White, the eldest son of the White family. Brother Fred, this is my cousin, Claire." Harold introduced Fred with a flattering expression. As soon as Fred entered, his eyes were focused on Claire. Hearing those words, he quickly extended his hand and said, "Hello, Claire. I have heard about the beauty of the Wilson family's daughter for a long time. Seeing her today, she truly deserves her reputation." A trace of dissatisfaction flashed across Charlie's eyes. There was no way his wife would be beautiful, and the flies around him would annoy him to death after being caught one by one. So he reached out his hand first, shook hands with Fred, and said coolly, "Hello, I'm Claire's husband." "You?" Fred looked Charlie up and down. His contempt was overwhelming, and he withdrew his hand before he said indifferently, "I didn't expect Claire to get married. It's really a flower in cow dung." Wendy quickly explained on the side, "Brother Fred, this trash was imported into our Wilson family. He has no job and no ability." After finishing speaking, she deliberately winked at Fred and said, "Brother Fred, after I marry Gerald, we will be considered family, and we should have more contact then." Fred naturally knew what she meant. This was to encourage him to pursue Claire. Then he smiled and said, "Ms. Claire is as beautiful as an immortal. If I could communicate more, I couldn't ask for it." At this time, Charlie also saw his mother-in-law, Elaine, and father-in-law, Jacob, approaching. After Elaine walked over, she hurriedly said to Claire, "Claire, have you heard? The Jones family is bankrupt." "Huh?" Claire asked in surprise. "When did that happen?" "Just now." Elaine sighed. "I thought you would divorce Charlie in the future and you could be with Wendell, but now there is nothing to watch." Charlie was very depressed. Was this mother-in-law stupid? Didn't she know that her current daughter-in-law was her real daughter-in-law? Upon seeing Elaine, Fred rushed over and introduced himself. "You must be Claire's mother, right?" "Auntie, I'm Gerald's cousin, Fred." "You're so beautiful, no wonder you could birth such a beautiful daughter." When Elaine heard that Fred was Gerald's cousin, the eldest son of the White family and the son of a rich family, her eyes lit up and she said enthusiastically, "Yes, I'm Claire's mother. Are you and Claire friends?" Fred nodded and smiled. "Good friend, but I just met you today." Elaine was full of excitement and quickly nodded and said, "Everyone quickly find a place to sit. Don't stand, Mr. White. You young people, you should have more contacts in the future." "Mom!" Claire exclaimed in displeasure, preventing her mother from continuing. Elaine was about to say something. Claire held out her hand to remind everyone to pay attention to the stage. At this time, old Mrs. Wilson was already in the spotlight. She looked around happily before she stood in front of the microphone and smiled and said, "First of all, on behalf of the Wilson family, I welcome dear friends and partners to come to our banquet. Then, let us welcome the Vice Chairman of M. Grand Group, Miss Doris." The spotlight moved instantly, hitting a beam of light on the front seat. Wearing a black evening gown, Doris truly displayed her perfect figure before everyone's eyes. Under the light, she dazzled like an angel, and all the men in the field couldn't help but focus on her. E. Grand Group, Vice Chairman, unparalleled beauty. Each of these identities is enough to attract everyone's attention. After Doris stood up, she simply nodded at the crowd. When she saw Charlie, her eyes lingered for a moment before she moved away. At this time, old Mrs. Wilson continued to speak. Today, we would like to thank the M. Grand Group for being able to entrust such an important project to the Wilson family. The Wilson family will definitely do its best to live up to the trust of the M. Grand Group. Secondly, we would also like to introduce to our friends an outstanding junior from our Wilson family. If it weren't for him, we would not have reached this cooperation with M. Grand Group. Moreover, after mutual consultation with our group, we decided to nominate him as our Wilson Group Director, who is fully responsible for the cooperation with M. Grand Group. Elaine's mother-in-law said excitedly, "Oh, Claire, it's time for you to be on stage." Even though Claire was ready to go on stage, she was still nervous. Charlie immediately shot her an encouraging look. Harold looked at Claire, who was full of joy and couldn't help but show a grin at the corner of his mouth. Old Mrs. Wilson also looked at the table and spoke with a smile. "Let's welcome the new director of the Wilson Group, Harold." Claire's figure immediately froze in place. She looked to the side in disbelief, but looked at Harold proudly and stepped onto the stage. Charlie's eyes immediately turned cold. A good way to cross the river and destroy the bridge. The Wilson family, after using Claire, immediately abandoned her, not caring about her feelings at all. Claire's eyes immediately turned red, and tears continued to well up in her eye sockets. Immediately after, she stood up and ran out the door without looking back. For him, how happy he was when she came, how desperate he was now. Charlie watched him go, his face even colder. "Disturbing my wife? Are you looking for death?" At this time, Harold stood on the stage and said proudly, "Thank you for the company's trust. I will definitely work hard to become a director. I will definitely complete the project given to us by M. Grand Group." Mrs. Wilson nodded with satisfaction, took the words, and said, "There is one more important thing about this banquet, and that is, we are fortunate to have Mr. Wade, the new chairman of M. Grand Group. Please use the warmest applause. Welcome to Chairman Wade." There was a thunderous applause from the audience. All guests tonight are rushing to the new chairman of M. Grand Group. Everyone is waiting to see the style. Everyone is watching privately, just wanting to see who will stand this time around. Someone even said, "I suspect the mysterious chairman of M. Grand Group is the same person as the super goddess who made a lot of noise in Rare Earth on the internet." I also think it's very possible. The superhero's back looks strange. It shouldn't be in the Oris Hill Circle. God, if you say that, isn't the chairman of M. Grand Group the most powerful super rich person in Oris Hill? I'm looking forward to seeing it in its true colors. In this thunderous applause, under the enthusiastic attention of many people, Charlie suddenly, with a cold face, and slowly stood up.